In this video, I'm going to talk about how to give and receive useful feedback. Now, you may be wondering what I mean by useful feedback when it comes to your academic writing. So let me share a little bit of my story to illustrate. So when I was enrolled in my first graduate program, I received feedback on my writing at the very end of the semester, almost always at the very end of a course. And usually it was just a bunch of red ink all over my paper with a letter grade at the top. It was everything from I missed a comma somewhere or a space somewhere, or maybe a comment just said clarify or awkward, and that was it. So I really never knew what to do with that feedback because it was at the end of the semester and I already had a grade. And unfortunately, when I became a teaching assistant later and had to grade student papers, I just did the same thing because I didn't know what else to do. I thought I literally had to go in and correct everything on my students' papers. And it was really tedious to do. And I don't think it was helpful for them at all. And so it was just totally wrong. It was just the wrong way to go about feedback. And I didn't know any other way. However, I learned the concept of useful feedback in an academic writing studio that I attended when I was a graduate student several years later at Texas A&M University. And it revolutionized my understanding of feedback, what useful feedback is, and how it can actually be helpful. So stick around and I will talk you through 3 points on that. The very first point is that useful feedback is feedback that's appropriate for the stage of writing. So for example, if I get feedback on messy first drafts versus finalized manuscripts, the feedback should be different, right? Same thing if I'm asking for feedback. So let me give you an example. I would, when I taught research methodology, the students had to turn in a final proposal of a research project. What I learned to do was to ask them to write a messy kind of first draft right before the middle of the semester. So that would force them to get something out. And in the good way, it would force me to give them feedback on messy drafts. And so yes, it took time, but I knew when I was giving feedback that the main issues I would probably encounter in their papers were things like organization and clarity, which is normal because that's the same issue I have when I write my first drafts. So when I would provide feedback for these messy drafts, I wouldn't worry so much about spelling or grammar or punctuation. Now, if I saw consistent patterns of oh, this person's always writing run-on sentences. Maybe they don't know what that is or didn't learn. So I would show them how to fix it, maybe give them a resource, and then just tell them to look out for that for the rest of their paper when they went back and fixed things. But my main focus was things like big picture things, like helping them make sure their purpose statement was clear and consistent. That was such a big thing. That their paragraphs had strong topic sentences. And if they didn't, I would model how to do that and then tell them to think about it for all the other paragraphs. And then that their overall structure flowed and was cohesive. And again, all the time, it helps to just model to them one way to do that. And then it's amazing how they'll go back and fix that on their own. And then once students started fixing these big picture issues, I noticed that they would get a lot more confidence in their writing and their thinking. And that's because, honestly, I believe writing and thinking are related. It's very hard to separate them. And it's very helpful to have someone point out what's not clear in your early writing to help you shape your thinking and thoughts. And so the lovely thing for me as an instructor was that by the end of the semester, when they would turn in their final paper, it was such a pleasure to read because I had done all the hard work early on and so had they. And the end product was so much stronger. It was so much easier to grade final papers. It was a breeze compared to how it used to be when I actually didn't have them do that. So likewise, if I'm asking for feedback on a messy draft versus a more final draft, I need to make sure I go to the right person. So for example, I'm currently writing my first book and I have shared my messy first drafts with people I really, really trust and who know that it's a messy first draft. And I just want to get general feedback on whether my ideas are making sense, whether they're clear, whether things flow, just to tweak big things like that. So I wouldn't share something like a messy first book chapter with a professional editor. That wouldn't make any sense. But once I'm done with my book or chapter, I could go to someone that maybe I don't know very well and could just look at everything for editing and formatting. So I hope that makes sense. I'm just talking about extremes here. So I would advise you to think about who you could go to at different phases of your writing process to get feedback. Now, if you're still watching and finding the content useful, please like this video, please subscribe, please hit the notification bell and share it with someone else. I'll appreciate that. And then stick around because I have 2 more quick points. So the second one is that if you want to improve the quality of your writing, it's important to get feedback consistently and throughout your writing process. So even though it is scary to get feedback at first, if you're not used to it, I know I was scared. It's so useful, even in very beginning stages, because you'll know, like I was illustrating before, like what your readers think and what ideas maybe aren't quite clear in your own mind and it's coming across in the writing, and they'll ask questions and that will help you clarify things for yourself as well. And then of course, it never hurts to get expert feedback from people in your own academic field, like with later drafts, maybe just to make sure your content's correct and accurate in the way you're stating it, if it's making a meaningful contribution to your field and things like that. And my last point is that if you want to learn about feedback in much more depth, then definitely check out Patricia Goodson's book chapter called Get Feedback in Becoming an Academic Writer. And I'll drop the link below. And the chapter gives specific information on everything from classifying different types of feedback, what to ask during different stages of your writing if you're asking for feedback, and how to actually approach someone to ask them for feedback. They're a little different. So I hope you found this video useful. Definitely check out any of the other recommended videos that YouTube's might be recommending at this moment to help you with your academic writing and career. And until next time, happy writing, productivity, and truth seeking. And I'll see you next time. Okay, bye-bye.